Eli was a human scavenger who lived on the edge of a broken desert colony. His small metal shack stood near mountains of old junk fallen ships, broken machines, and scraps left from forgotten wars. Every day he walked through the burning sun, hoping to find something valuable to sell. That day started like any other. He wore a dirty jacket, carried a rusted tool bag, and walked alone toward the southern edge of the junkyard. A storm had passed the night before, uncovering new wreckage. As he stepped over twisted metal and shattered panels, something caught his eye. Half buried in the sand was a smooth silver crate. It wasn't like the other junk. It was clean, cold to the touch, and hummed with soft energy. Eli knelt down and brushed the sand away. No labels, no markings, no buttons. But the moment his hand touched it fully, the crate beeped. Lights blinked along the edge. A soft click sounded, and it slowly opened. Inside was a small child. She had pale blue skin that shimmered in the sunlight. Her eyes were wide, glowing faintly purple and filled with fear. She was wrapped in a strange blanket and held a broken plush toy, a small alien animal with missing ears. Eli froze. The child didn't speak. She didn't cry. She just looked up at him, then slowly reached out and grabbed the edge of his jacket. Eli looked around. No one. No tracks. No ships. Freighter behind the crate had been dead for years. He leaned closer and noticed something scratched. Inside the crate, in rough alien letters, he took a picture and used his old translator later that night. The message read, "Please protect my daughter. I will come back." He didn't know who wrote it, or why the child was hidden in a crate in the middle of a junk desert. But he knew what he had to do. He lifted her into his arms. She was light, trembling, and cold. She buried her face into his chest, holding tight. Eli took her home. His shack wasn't much, just old panels, tiny generator, and one bed, but he made space. He gave her warm water, food paste, and a clean blanket. She didn't speak, not even one word. She only watched him with wide eyes. That night, as the wind howled outside, Eli sat beside her. He didn't know her name. He didn't know what species she was. But when she finally leaned against him and fell asleep, something in his heart shifted. She had no one. And somehow, now she had him. He stayed up, thinking. He scanned local radio bands, checked recent crash reports. Nothing. No missing ships. No rescue calls. No bounty notices. It was like she didn't exist. But far above, something had seen. A long-dead satellite hidden in the clouds blinked to life as the crate opened. It was old alien tech, silent for years. But the moment Eli touched that crate, the satellite woke. Up, it sent a signal. High above the planet, in deep orbit, a cloaked alien ship received it. The ship was dark, quiet, and shaped like a dagger. Systems lit up. On the bridge stood a tall female figure in armor, her face hidden behind a silver mask. The signal flashed on her screen. A location, a date, and one word written in her. Language opened. She gripped the edge of the console tightly. Her voice was low, filled with both pain and hope. "She's alive," the woman said. "My daughter is alive." She turned to the pilot, eyes sharp with urgency. "Set course for the junk colony." Full silence. "I'm going down there." Back on the planet, Eli lay in his small bed, the blue child sleeping beside him. He didn't know the signal had been sent. He didn't know someone was already coming. He only knew one thing: this little girl needed him, and he would protect her. No matter what. Eli didn't know how to raise a child, let alone one who wasn't even human. But when the small blue girl clung to him and refused to let go, he didn't ask questions. He cleaned out the supply closet, made her a bed from old blankets and soft wires, and gave her a place beside him in the only home he had ever known. He tried asking her name, but she didn't respond. She just blinked at him with large, glowing eyes and followed him wherever he went, silent and watchful. After 2 days, he simply started calling her Luma, because it reminded him of light, and that's what she felt like in his otherwise dark, lonely life. She never corrected him. At first, Luma barely moved. She didn't eat much. She never smiled. But slowly little things changed. She stopped flinching when he reached for her hand. She giggled once when a broken cleaning droid tried to vacuum her blanket, and one day she finally spoke just one word: Papa. Eli had been repairing a broken cum antenna when he heard her say it, soft like a whisper carried on the wind. He turned around, confused, tools in his hands. She stood behind him, clutching that same broken plush toy, eyes wide, waiting too. See if he would get angry. He didn't. He dropped the tools and picked her up. Yeah, he said, voice cracking. I guess I am. It brought slowly, but each day brought something new. Luma learned to speak a strange mix of English and her own tongue. She learned to build things, climb junk piles like a spider, and fix broken bots better than Eli ever could. She even started adding her own drawings to the inside walls of their shack stars, moons, spaceships, and stick figures that always included a tall man and a smaller glowing girl. But there were other things too. Stranger things. Sometimes at night Luma would cry in her sleep, speaking in words Eli didn't understand. Sometimes when she was scared or angry, lights would flicker around her body. One time, a steel pipe bent in half without her touching it. And when Eli cut his hand badly while repairing a plasma coil, Uma pressed her fingers against his skin, and the wound closed like it had never happened. Eli knew this wasn't normal. She wasn't just an alien child. She was something more still. He never asked her to explain. He figured she'd tell him when she was ready. But part of him feared what the truth might be. They lived quietly, hidden from the world, tucked away in the dust-blown edges of the junk colony. People sometimes visited Eli to buy spare parts or trade food, and when they saw Luma, they always whispered. Some looked scared, some disgusted. One even said, "You better watch it. Human. Alien kids bring alien trouble." Eli never let those people near her again. One night, the wind outside howled louder than usual. Eli lay awake, eyes on the ceiling, listening to Luma's soft breathing. Then her voice cut through the silence. It wasn't sleepy, wasn't scared. It was calm, but strange, like someone older was speaking through her. She's coming. Eli turned to her, heart thumping. Who? Kiddo. My mother, she said. But she's not alone. Oh. Her eyes were glowing brighter than usual. Her voice wasn't quite her own. And on the wall behind her, her drawings had changed. The stars were darker. The ships had claws. The tall man holding the glowing girl was now standing in front of her like a shield. He reached for her hand. What? Do you mean not alone? But she didn't answer. She'd already fallen back asleep, breathing slow and steady like nothing happened. Eli didn't sleep that night. He stood outside the shack, staring up at the stars. The sky was clear, but he could feel something wrong. The wind carried a strange scent, like burning metal and ozone. He checked all the sensors. No movement. No energy spikes. But his instinct screamed that something was watching from above. He didn't know that far above him. In low orbit, a cloaked alien ship had just come to a full stop. Its engines were cold. Its weapons were primed but quiet. And inside the bridge, the tall armored woman with the silver mask stared down at the coordinates on her screen, eyes locked on one blinking signal. She didn't speak. She didn't smile. She placed one hand on a crystal embedded in the ship's control panel and whispered, "A name. Luma." Her voice echoed through the ship like a soft command, and the engines began charging slowly, silently, as the ship prepared to descend without being detected. But she wasn't the only one who had heard the signal. From another side of the galaxy, a different ship, one shaped like a clawed beast with blood-red light. So, it's changed direction. The hunt had begun, and in the middle of it all, Eli stood between them and a girl who still called him Papa. The colony woke up to silence, but Eli felt something strange in the air. The sky was too still. No wind, no dust storms, no birds flying between the broken towers. It felt like the desert itself was holding its breath. Eli stepped outside with his old plasma rifle slung across his back. He wasn't a soldier, but he had lived long enough to know when danger was close. Luma stood in the doorway behind him, holding her plush toy. her glowing eyes staring into the distance, like she could see something he couldn't. She had barely spoken since the night she warned him. "She's coming," she had said, but not alone.
Oh.
She was quiet again, but her body shimmered faintly, like her energy was rising with every passing hour. They had breakfast without speaking. Eli gave her the last can of real fruit, and she shared it with him, smiling for the first time in days. But that smile didn't last. The ground trembled. It was light at first, like a soft drumbeat beneath their feet. Eli stood up fast, eyes scanning the sky. At first, he saw nothing. Then a shadow passed over them. He grabbed Luma and ran outside. High above, cutting through the morning clouds, a ship descended. It didn't roar like other engines. It floated silently like a ghost. Smooth black metal with flowing silver patterns, almost alive. It hovered just above the junkyard's edge and slowly dropped to the ground, landing without kicking. Up dust. Eli didn't move, put Luma behind him, and pointed his rifle at the ship. The door opened. Steam hissed out. A figure stepped forward, tall, graceful, wrapped in a dark cloak that moved as if it had a life of its own. A silver mask covered her face, and a long braid of glowing white hair hung over one shoulder. She raised both hands to show she had no weapon. Her voice came through the air, calm and low. "I'm not here to harm you." Eli didn't lower the rifle. "You, her mother?" The figure walked closer. "Yes, I am Seralia of the House of Valeth, and you have raised my daughter." Luma stepped from behind Eli. Her hands trembled. Her voice was almost a whisper. "Mother." Oh. Woman stopped, heart clearly racing behind her mask. She slowly pulled it off. Beneath was a face that looked like Luma's, but older, sharper, and tired. Her skin shimmered like starlight. Her eyes were the same glowing purple. Seralia knelt to the ground and opened her arms. Luma hesitated. Then she ran into them. Eli watched, heart heavy. The child he raised for years now stood in the arms of someone who looked like she belonged in a different world. But something didn't sit right. The mother's hands were calloused, her armor. Beneath the robe was scratched. She moved like a fighter, not just a mother. He stepped closer. "You said you'd come back for her, that message in the crate." Seralia nodded without breaking eye contact. "I left her to save her. I was being hunted. Our bloodline was marked for death. I knew they wouldn't stop, so I hid her." "Why now?" Eli asked. "Why return after all these years?" "Because the signal was triggered, and they are coming. If they find her, they will use her. They'll twist her power, turn her into a weapon, just like they did with others of our kind." Luma turned to Eli. "I don't want to go." Seralia's face softened. "I don't want to take you, my star, but staying will kill you." Eli felt his grip tighten on the rifle. He knew what was coming before she said it. "We have to leave," Seralia said. "Today, no," Eli said. "She's not going anywhere until I know what you're not telling me." Seralia's eyes flashed. "I gave you my daughter. I trusted you when I had no choice. Don't question my reasons now." "She's not just your daughter anymore," Eli said, voice steady. "She's mine too." The silence between them cracked when a sharp alarm rang through Eli's shack. It wasn't one of his systems. It was Luma. Her body lit up like a beacon. Her eyes turned bright white. "They're close," she whispered. Seralia stood up fast, cloak falling away to reveal full battle armor underneath, elegant but worn. She pulled out a thin blade that shimmered with energy. "We don't have time," she said. "If they find her here, they'll burn this whole colony to ash." Eli didn't care about politics, empires, or old wars. He only cared about the girl holding both their hands. She looked up at him, scared but trusting. "What do we do?" she asked. Seralia and Eli locked eyes. "We fight," he said. Luma nodded. Slowly, her glow intensified. Her power was waking up, and far above, breaking through orbit. The hunters began to descend. The air cracked with tension as the cloaked enemy ships pierced the upper atmosphere. Light. Instead, they seemed to swallow it, like moving shadows crawling across the sky. They didn't send warnings or messages. They came without sound, without mercy. In the junk colony below, people were already running. Sirens wailed. Old cum towers sparked to life, but no one had time to call for help. Everyone was too busy hiding. These weren't just raiders or scavengers. Everyone who lived near the edge of space knew what cloaked hunters meant: extermination. Inside the small shack Eli built with his own hands, Aurelia finished assembling a small portable shield. It flickered weakly. Old tech. Damaged. She cursed under her breath. Luma sat on the floor, silent eyes glowing softly. Her plush toy lay beside her, forgotten. She stared at her fingers, which sparked with threads of white-blue light. She didn't understand what was happening inside her body, but she felt it like a storm trying to break out of her chest. Eli stepped in, gripping a custom-built plasma blaster. He had modified it over the years, even gave it a name, Betty. It hummed, low, ready to fire. "We can't fight an army," Eli said, eyes on Aurelia. Aurelia didn't look up. "We don't have to. Just hold them off long enough for me to trigger the escape sequence." Luma stood up. "I don't want to escape. I want to stay with Papa." Her voice cracked, but it wasn't weak. "It shook the room," said Rel, finally. Turned toward her daughter. Her mask was gone now. Her eyes looked tired. "I didn't come back to steal you away. I came because I thought I had no other choice. But I see now I was wrong." She walked to Luma and knelt in front of her. "You're not just mine anymore. You belong to this world too." To him. Luma hugged her without speaking. A loud bang shook the ground. The first of the enemy ships had landed. Eli ran to the shack's rooftop. Through his old binoculars, he saw black-armored soldiers spreading across the scrap fields. No markings, no flags, just clean, deadly precision. They moved like machines. Each one held a rifle that pulsed with violet energy. Eli rushed back down. "We've got minutes, maybe less." Aurelia grabbed Luma's hand. "Then we move," but Luma resisted. Her body began to glow again, stronger now. Entire shack started to shake. Eli stepped forward, worried. "Luma, I don't want to run," she said, voice trembling. "They're coming for me. I feel them. If I run, they'll follow." Looked at her, shocked. "You can feel them already? That early?" "I can feel what they want. It's cold. They want to put something inside me. A machine. They want to change me." Eli's hand clenched around the blaster. "That's not happening." Aurelia nodded. "Then we stand." The three of them stepped outside. The colony around them had become a war zone. Junk towers burned. Old scavenger shacks exploded in showers of metal and fire. A few brave locals tried to fight, but were cut down instantly. Their weapons were too old. Their shields failed too fast. The enemy didn't speak. They didn't capture. They only killed Eli. Led Aurelia and Luma behind a wall of crushed freighter engines. It gave them cover. From behind it, Aurelia tossed out a grenade alien tech. It rolled into the open and burst into a bright blue dome, freezing time for anyone inside its radius for 7 seconds. They used those 7 seconds to strike. Eli fired from the side, blasting 2 soldiers straight through their armor. Aurelia ran forward like a blur, slicing through 3 more. She moved with deadly grace like she had fought this battle before. Maybe she had, but there were too many. Luma stood behind the wall, trembling. Her hands were glowing white-hot now. Eyes had gone pure silver. She pressed both palms to the sand and whispered something in her language. The ground responded. Machines buried under the junkyard rose up, shaking off dust and rust. Giant loaders, broken haulers, even an old mining bot powered up. Luma didn't control them, but something inside her woke them. Aurelia stared at her daughter in awe. "You're more powerful than I ever was." Luma didn't seem to hear her. She walked past the wall and stepped into the battlefield. Eli shouted, "Luma!" "No," but the girl raised her hands toward the enemy lines. The machines she awakened followed her, big, loud, armored with scrap and old weapons. She whispered one word, "Stop." A wave of white energy burst from her chest like a pulse. The first line of enemy soldiers froze, their weapons shut off, their helmets cracked. They dropped to the ground like dolls. The other hunters hesitated. For the first time, they looked confused. Sorelia and Eli moved forward to stand beside her. The child they had both claimed was no longer just a lost girl. She was becoming something else, and the galaxy would soon learn her name. Asterisk smoke drifted. Across the ruins of the junk colony, fires burned between towers of twisted scrap. The sky above was stained with the black trails of enemy ships. Some crashed, some still circling like vultures waiting to strike again. But in the center of the chaos stood a little girl, Luma. Her pale blue skin glowed with threads of living light. Her white eyes were calm, steady, unblinking. She had done something no one understood. She had stopped the enemy with a single pulse of power, a force that even Sorelia, her mother, had never seen before. Sorelia's armor was scorched. Her hands bled, but she didn't move. She stared at her daughter, whispering something in a tongue only she remembered from her royal training. Eli stood beside them, breathing hard, blaster empty. His jacket was torn, and his face had cuts, but his eyes were fixed only on Luma. He had raised her from a child, taught her to walk, to laugh, to hold tools, and now she stood like a goddess. He dropped to one knee, not from pain, but because his legs simply gave out. Luma turned to him slowly. "I'm sorry," she said. Her voice was soft again, back to the girl he knew. "I didn't mean to hurt them that bad." "You didn't do anything wrong," Eli said. "They came here to hurt you. You protected us." Sorelia stepped forward, her face tense with worry. "That power, Luma, that was old blood magic. Ancient, forbidden. It only runs in the royal line. And only in the chosen." "I didn't know what I was doing," Luma replied. "I just didn't want them to touch you." Eli reached up and took her hand. "You did fine, kid." But deep down, something in him turned cold. This wasn't just a family matter anymore. Luma wasn't just a lost child with strange powers. She was a weapon, one that many would now come to claim. Sorelia turned away and pulled a small glowing shard from her belt. She touched it to her armor, and a small star map projected in the air. She pointed to a distant part of the galaxy. "They'll come again, stronger. Now that she's awakened, every empire that wants power will chase her. This colony won't survive a second wave." "We're not leaving," Eli said. Sorelia looked at him. "You don't understand?" "No, you don't," he said, standing now. "She has a life here, a home. You think dragging her across the stars is going to protect her? You left her once to hide her. You want to do that again?" "I didn't leave her out of choice," Sorelia snapped. "I was being hunted. Escaped with my life." Eli stepped closer. "Then why come back now? Why not stay hidden?" Sorelia's eyes softened. She looked at Luma, who was now drawing shapes in the dust with her foot. "Because I couldn't feel her anymore. For years I dreamed of her, felt her heartbeat in mine. Then one day, nothing. I thought she died. But when that crate opened and the beacon lit up, I had to know. I had to see her with my own eyes." She paused, then whispered, and I saw her calling someone else Papa. Eli didn't speak. He just looked away. Sorelia stepped closer to Luma and gently knelt beside her. "I wasn't strong enough to protect you back then," she said. "But now I am. We can leave this place. Find others like us. We can build something safe." Luma didn't look up. "I'm not leaving him." Sorelia closed her eyes, pain rushing across her face. "I love you, Mama," Luma said. "But I love him too. He didn't just raise me. He gave me everything. When I cried, he held me. When I couldn't sleep, he told me stories. When I had nightmares, he stayed awake until I felt okay again." Sorelia stood, her voice barely holding. "Then we stay." Eli blinked. "What? We stay," she repeated. "For now, if she wants to stay, I'll fight beside you." Eli didn't know what to say, but before anyone could react, a sharp, high-pitched sound rang through the air. It wasn't coming from the sky. It was coming from under. Nearby hill of scrap suddenly exploded. From beneath it, a black crawler part machine, part creature rose out. Long spiked legs, a face like a cracked skull, and a mouth filled with spinning blades. Luma gasped. They sent a reaper. Soralia grabbed her blade. They didn't come for battle. They came for harvest. The reaper screeched and leaped toward them. Eli pulled Luma back. Soralia moved to face it. In Luma, she didn't run. Instead, her feet began to lift from the ground. Her body pulsed with light again. Her voice, now deeper, echoed like wind through steel. No more. She raised her hand. The reaper stopped, mid-air frozen. Then it shattered into 1,000 sparks. Luma dropped back to the ground, falling into Eli's arms. She had saved them again, but now there was no doubt left. Everyone in the galaxy would know her power, and they would come. Night fell, but no one in the junk colony slept. The fires from the battle had burned down to red embers, but fear still floated in the air like ash. The locals had come out of hiding, staring at the ruins, whispering about the glowing girl who had stopped machines with her voice. Some were in awe. Others were afraid. Eli stood on the roof of his shack, watching them all, one hand on his rifle, the other gripping a mug of stale coffee. His body ached, his back throbbed, but his mind wouldn't rest. Everything had changed. His quiet life, the peaceful routine, his little girlet, was all torn apart in a single day. Behind him, inside the shack, Luma lay in her cot. Her breathing was soft, but not steady. Her body still glowed faintly in her sleep, and her fingers twitched like she was dreaming of something far away. Eli had wrapped her in every blanket he had, but he could tell it wasn't warmth she needed. It was something deeper. Something broken inside her was waking up. Sura stood in the corner. Armor off, dressed in a long black tunic that still bore old bloodstains. She leaned against the wall with her arms crossed, her long braid wet with sweat. Her eyes never left Luma. "She's changing," Soralia said quietly. Eli didn't look back. "Is it hurting her?" "No," she replied, walking slowly toward the bed, "but it's changing her faster than it should. Her powers are tied to her emotions. That last attack, that Reaper you saw what she did?" "I saw," Eli said, voice low. She stopped at midair like it was a toy. Then she crushed it, and after. She cried in my arms like she didn't understand what she'd done. "She's powerful," Soralia whispered, placing a hand on Luma's forehead. "More than I ever was. She's waking up too fast. She should have had training, rituals, years of preparation. But she grew up human, loved, safe, and now she's in a war." Eli turned to face her, his eyes tired. "She's still a kid. I don't care what powers she has. She shouldn't have to fight anyone." Soralia looked at him, guilt in her eyes. "But she will. Because they're not going to stop. Reapers don't come alone. That was a test. Scout. The real ones are still out there." Eli nodded.
"Then
"We fight. Here. Together." She stared at him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "We'll need help." We spent the next day walking through the colony, knocking on doors, speaking to every scavenger. Traitor, ex-mercenary, and outlaw. Hiding in the dust, many refused. Some were afraid. But a few remembered the girl glowing like a star, saving them when their weapons failed. Those few stayed. By the end of the day, they had a small team, 6 people, a quiet ex-soldier with a cybernetic arm, a grumpy miner who built bombs from toaster parts, a twin pair of old alien brothers who swore they could shoot a drone out of the sky blindfolded, and a woman named Kelda, a former bounty hunter who owed Eli a favor from years ago. They dug trenches. They built shield towers from broken ship cores. They laid traps in the sand using scrap and leftover alien tech. They worked until their hands bled and their muscles screamed. Luma watched them from the shack window. She didn't speak much. She only asked one question: "Will they come for me again?" Eli knelt beside her, brushing her hair gently. "But not just for you." "Then who?" He smiled. "For all of us. For what you've shown them, that we're not afraid." Luma nodded, but her hands trembled. "What if I lose control again?" Soralia walked in quietly, holding a small metallic device shaped like a ring. "You won't," she said. "This will help. It focuses your energy, keeps it stable. My mother gave it to me when I was your age." She knelt and placed the ring gently on Luma's wrist. It glowed softly, adjusting to her. "Thank you," Luma whispered. Later that night, the stars blinked with unnatural rhythm. Kelda called out from the tower, "Incoming, big one." Everyone gathered on the ridge. In the distance, a storm rolled. Across the desert, but it wasn't weather. It was a carrier ship 20 times larger than anything they had seen before. Its engines roared like a mountain cracking in half. Soralia narrowed her eyes. "That's not just a hunter ship. That's a collector." Eli cocked his rifle. "What's the difference?" "They don't come to kill," she said. "They come to take." Eli looked at Luma, who now stood beside him, hands glowing. Eyes calm but focused. He wrapped an arm around her shoulder. "They're going to regret that." And as the ship lowered into the dust, the colony stood ready. A father, a mother, a daughter, and a line no one would cross. Asterisk, the collector ship blocked out the stars. It descended with thunder, its engines shaking the ground, its armored body casting a long shadow over the junk colony. Towers of rusted scrap collapsed under the force of its landing. The sky turned orange from its burning thrusters. This was not a ship built for war. It was built for capture, for control, for taking anything or anyone it wanted. Inside the colony, people held their breath. Kelda gripped her twin pistols. The Exmerk twins locked and loaded their long-range rifles. The miner crouched behind a mound of scrap, hand on a remote that would trigger every bomb in the sand. The air sizzled with fear, but also something else, something stronger. Hope. Luma stood in the center of it all. She wore simple clothes, no armor, no weapons, but her glow had changed. It was no longer flickering or unstable. It was smooth, steady, calm, like moonlight on water. Silver ring on her wrist pulsed in time with her heartbeat. Her face showed no fear, just quiet strength. Beside her stood Eli, eyes sharp, body tense. His jacket was patched, blaster freshly charged, and a bandolier of scrap-made explosives strapped to his chest. On the other side stood Soralia, dressed once more in full armor, her sword glowing with quiet fire. Above them, the collector. Ship opened. A ramp lowered with a hiss, steam pouring down like smoke from a dying star. From the shadows stepped the enemy, not just soldiers, not just machines. A single figure walked forward, tall, dressed in red-black robes stitched with ancient alien symbols. Its face was covered by a mask of carved bone, eyes burning orange. Around it floated machines, drones, spindly harvesters, weapons shaped like insects. This was no ordinary commander. This was a seeker. A leader of the old dark bloodlines, those who believed in controlling royal bloodlines like Luma's. Using their gifts to power armies, destroy planets, enslave galaxies, the seeker stopped at the edge of the colony and spoke. "You've protected her well, human. But now she must come with me. It is her destiny." Eli stepped forward without flinching. "She already has a destiny," he said, "and it's not yours." The seeker raised a hand. The machines behind him moved in, hovering, buzzing, scanning. "You cannot stop me," the seeker said. "You are broken, rusted, forgotten. But she is perfect." Soralia took one step forward, eyes full of fire. "She is not yours. She never was, and you will not touch her." The seeker paused, tilting his head slightly. "She belongs to a greater order." Then a new voice answered, strong and clear. "I belong to myself." Luma walked forward. The ring on her wrist flashed once, and then melted, becoming energy flowing into her skin. Her hair lifted, glowing strands of silver light. Her eyes turned bright white. The air around her shimmered with pressure. "You tried to take my voice before I could even speak," she said. "You tried to take my future before I could live. But I am done running," the seeker snarled. "You are just a child." "I was," she said softly. "But now I've learned. I'm also a daughter." She turned to Eli, who gave her the smallest nod. then to Sorelia, who whispered, "Go." Raised both hands and the entire battlefield trembled. Machines locked up. Their lights went dark. Their weapons fell to the ground. The drones above exploded into sparks. The ground beneath the Seeker cracked. He stepped back, voice rising in anger. "You dare defy your bloodline." "I am my bloodline," Luma whispered, "and I choose love." A beam of white light exploded from her chest. Pure, clean, beautiful. It struck the Seeker and lifted him into the air. His mask cracked. His robe burned. He screamed not in pain, but in fear. Then, with one final burst of light, he vanished, gone like smoke in the wind. The collector ship began to shake. Without its leader, the systems inside failed. It groaned, twisted, and collapsed into the junk, crumbling like a falling tower. The ground went still. It was over. The colony stood in silence, staring at the glowing girl who had just ended a war without firing a single bullet. Luma turned, her glow slowly fading. She looked tired, her knees buckled. Eli caught her before she hit the ground. "I'm okay," she whispered. "Just sleepy." Sorelia knelt beside them and smiled through tears. "She did it," she said. "She ended it." Eli looked at both of them. Oh, she began it. They took Luma home. In the weeks that followed, people came from all over Aliens. Humans, refugees, broken families, all asking if the stories were true. A girl who stopped war, a junk colony that stood against a collector, a human who raised a starborn child. Eli never told them everything, but he always let them stay. The junk colony changed. It grew. It became a place of safety, of healing, of new beginnings, and in the center of it all was Luma. No, it's longer a girl in a crate, but a light that belonged to no one but herself, a daughter of two worlds, a star the galaxy could no longer ignore. And one day when she looked up at the stars again, she smiled and whispered, "I'm ready to build my own sky." The end. Asterisk.